All right. So the purpose of tonight's session is to help you get started with R and RStudio. And here is tonight's agenda. We're going to talk about what is R and what is RStudio. We're going to talk about the environment and interface. We'll talk about how to save your commands in a nice R file. We talked about using variables. We talked about reading data into R data frame from CSV file. And we talk about different data properties, filters, etc., and data visualization. Okay, now let's get started. This is the data that we're going to use for today's demo, and you can read the data set description on Kaggle. So basically, this data set tracks if the employee was retained or if the employee left the company. And the columns are job satisfaction level, last number of years since last performance review, and number of projects the person was in, and etc. Right? So if the employee had an accident at work, and of course, if an employee stayed or left, right? The employee's department and the salary. So this is the data set, right? We're gonna go back to it later. But first things first, you might be wondering what Elena or me, what I'm talking about, right? So what is R and what are R advantages? Well, first of all, R is a language for statistical analysis and it's suitable in an academic environment. Well, it's free, right? And it's an open source. You eventually, you may want to, if you're interested, you might start writing your own code or your own packages. I'll talk about package is. Then there are excellent data visualization capabilities and there are advanced statistical method implementation. You can share your code and you can share your results with others. And R keeps continuously growing. So as we speak, there could be new packages released, right? And you can use it with databases, but we're going to save this part for data 650. There is more than one way to produce the same result, and R supports parallel processing. Well, however, there are also limitations. First of all, R itself does not have a graphical user interface that you may have gotten used to in some other courses. It takes some learning curve, right? You need to learn how to use help pages. Well, R is case sensitive, but so Python is, I think, right? You may not solve all the data mining problems. You have to keep on updating the packages all the time. And this is very important. In order to install R and RStudio, you must have a local admin rights for the PC, or at least you need to know username and password if you're prompted to enter, right? Now, it cannot be embedded into the web applications. And of course, it's slower than Python and Java, right? So this is just for you to keep in mind, right? So what you need to install, and hopefully you already did, you had to install the latest R version, and then you have to install the latest RStudio version. We're going to talk about what RStudio is, but one thing to keep in mind is that if you install RStudio, right, without installing R first, you might be warned. You will not be able to run RStudio without R. So first you're going to download R, the latest version, and then you're going to download the latest desktop RStudio version, okay? So in here, it's a URL, but hopefully you already downloaded. And this is how the interface is gonna look like. But except at the top, it's gonna say the latest version is 4.12, something like that, right? So what you see here, and I'm gonna go to the actual R interface shortly, but what you see here, this big window, this is called the console window. So if I go to my RStudio, well, see here, this is the console window. So what happens is that when I run the commands are echoed in this window. And also you're gonna see the output or any error messages that the code returns. It's going to be in the console window, right? And I can also type the command. I can type the commands in here and run them, right? However, anything that I type in here, it's not reproducible. So in other words, I cannot just rerun my code just by single button click, right? So this was your first command, right? Version. It returns the version that you have currently installed on. So here you see this is the latest version, right? Now in here, what you see is the first tab is an environment. At the moment, this tab is empty because I have not done anything yet, right? I just launched the RStudio. History is going to be the history of my commands. Like, for example, I just ran the version command, right? And if you want to, you can rerun the command from the history. You're just going to click to console, and this will, right? It will repeat the command that I highlighted in the console and run it again. Well, but still, you don't want to rely on history to reproduce the code, right? I'll show you what you need to do. Now, don't worry about the connection stuff, because this is, you might be looking at in later coursework. A tutorial, this is, if you want to, you can install the package called lenr and go through the tutorial if you want to, okay? Now let's look at this panel, what we have here. In here, you're gonna see the files in the current working directory. Working directory is a folder where R is gonna look at by default, right? By default, if I try to save my file or if I try to read data from my hard drive, right? It's gonna try to find the file in the directory that I set by default. Plots, this is where all my plots gonna be at, right? So plots tab, data visualizations, packages. A package is nothing but a set of functions, set of variable, and set of help pages bundled together. There are two types of packages. The first type is system library. These packages were pre-installed with R. Well, this is the R base package dataset. For your first homework assignment, you used iris data. Iris data is in this datasets package here. See this? The iris data is part of this datasets, right? And if this thing is checked, this checkbox is checked, it means that the package is loaded in memory. In other words, the package is not available until you actually load it in memory. Some of them are loaded by default, right? When the R session starts, some packages are already in memory. And what the top portion here is that user libraries, those are the packages that I installed. And you will be using a rules package in your homework 2, right? Exercise 2 and exercise 3, you're going to be using your rules package, right? So here, this is packages and help. This is excellent help system. So you can type your command in here, right? For example, I can type version, right? And it's gonna give me a nice help page about it's gonna give me nice help pages about the commands that I type, right? I'll show you several ways. I'll show you several ways to search help, right? Don't worry about the viewer, okay? So here are the tabs. However, remember that anything that you type in here, this is not reproducible. To make your work reproducible, and because you need to submit the code, this is what you're gonna do. File, new file, and you're gonna select the R script, right? So untitled, right? So this is the window where you're gonna type your code, right? You're gonna type your commands and you're gonna save this file as .r. So if I click this, right? If I wanted to save it, it's gonna be .r file, and I can save it in any folder that I specify, right? I can save the file. Well, it's a .r, it's a file extension, right? But what I did for you is this. I created the script for today's session So to open a file, I can go to the open file, and I can find the file where I saved it and just open, right? But I'm going to show you a little trick here. Well, if you go to here, recent files, that shows you what you had recently opened, right? So this is the files that I had recently opened, right? If you don't remember where you saved your file and you know you had it recently opened, it's going to be in here. Files, you open what you recently opened. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the commands. And sometimes I go with a slide, sometimes I don't. I like to rather run the script. But what we did, we talked about this, right? Oh, I have to tell you what is RStudio. RStudio runs on top of R. It has some interface, right? It has a little bit. You may preview environmental variables, etc., right? And it's very nice because sometimes it can highlight the syntax error, etc. But I would strongly recommend that all you do is write the code. Avoid relying on tabs, right? You want to write the code as much as possible. So here, this just summarizes how to create a new R file, right? And I will show you how to run the code. But first, notice that, well, I have different color codes here. Everything that follows this hashtag, this is a comment. Comment describes what the code does. It's a non-executable line of the code, right? Here it describes, check the R version. And there is more than one way to get the same information, right? So I'm giving you more than one way because it depends on which book you read, right? It could be one command and one reading, the other command and the other reading. I want to make sure that you see as much as you can. So now to run this command at a time, look at this. I put my cursor on a line. I'm going to click run. It's going to execute the command. Session info, it's the information about your session. So this is before I told you, see, if you look at the packages and you go down to the user library, right? System library rather. See this? Those are the packages that you have in memory, right? That's what it lists here, attached based packages. Those are the packages that are loaded in memory, right? This gives you the compiler version and RTools version, right? And also it shows you your operating systems that you're running. In my case, I use Windows operating system. All right, so far so good. And this command here is going to show time, the current time, right? Now, ls command is going to list what's the variables that are currently in our environment. And at the moment, there is nothing, so nothing returned, right? Nothing returned. ls list the objects in an environment. Now, also, you may get the same output if you run objects command, okay? Now, data is going to show us available data sets that are pre-installed and that are in memory, right? So if I run it now, a new tab will open, and over here I see all the data sets that are available for me to use. And you see that I did not lie, right? Iris dataset is one of them. Okay, this is what you used for the first assignment. Now, you may use R as a calculator. See this, for example, I have this 5 plus 9. I'm going to run this and it's going to give me the output. You may notice this 1 in the brackets. Well, everything in R is a vector, okay? So here, this is a vector of one element. And 1 in the bracket means that the element on the first line is at position number 1, okay? So the elements in R in vector are numbered starting from 1. Remember, in Python, the elements were numbered starting from 0. Now you need to, there's little adjustment you need to make because the first element is numbered as 1. Okay. Now you can just put print command is just going to do the output. I just put something, welcome to data mining. Notice this is a vector of single element again. Now, I did 5 plus 9, but my environment is still empty because I have not assigned it to anything, right? So now we're gonna define X and take a look at it. I'm gonna assign. So see, this thing here is an assignment operator, and I'm gonna assign 3. So I expect X to appear in a global environment, right? Let's see if it's the case. See this X and the value is 3. And I can also output in the console, right? I can do print and X in parentheses, or I can just type X, it's a shortcut, right? Or this is another shortcut. I want to assign 5 to a Y, and I also want to output the result at the same time. So what you do is you put this like this, assigning 5 to a Y, and you also take this in parentheses. So this is gonna assign 5 to a Y and also the output result, okay? Now, suppose that I decided I no longer need X. Well, in this case, it's just single value, but you're gonna have cases with large matrices, right? You're gonna have cases when you have huge matrix that takes a lot of memory. If you no longer need the variable, you can run rm command, rm, and in parentheses, you're gonna specify what you want to remove, right? Rm stands for remove, right? So here, see this? I removed, it's gone. Now, if I was going to go back and run ls command, I expect to see only y, right? Because that's the only one that remains. And suppose that I had 1,000 commands, right? 1,000 of variables in here. Am I going to do remove one at a time? Of course not. If I want to remove all, this is how you do it. Well, ls returns the list, right? List variables, objects that are in a environment, right? And rm command is going to take the list as an input. So this is going to remove all that you have in the environment, right? Options, it's going to show you the current options that you have. Like, for example, this is a maximum length of a warning. So if your warning is longer than 1,000 characters, it will show the first 1,000 characters, right? And etc. So here are just the options, right, of your environment. And the maximum, if you try to display all content of the large data set, it's gonna cut off at some point, and it depends on your settings, all right? Now, sometimes, well, this is one of the questions that I often get, how to clear the screen, the console screen. You can do Control L. You hold the Control or Command key if you're using Mac, and you click L, right? Or you can also run this command. It will clear the console window. Def off. At the moment, it won't work because we have not done any plots, but that would clear the settings, right? But at the moment, we don't have any visualizations. And history 5 is going to show me the history and the 5 recent commands. So I'm going to run this. Well, see this? I have 5 recent commands that I ran, right? Now, as I mentioned, everything in R is a vector. So we're going to look at vectors in more depth. What I have in here, this is a combine command. Combine command combines the specified values into a vector. So here, I want to create a vector of elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And some of you may think that this is basic. Well, but those basic things are used as part of more complex commands, right? So see this, I expect this to return a vector of 5 elements. However, I'm not assigning it to anything, right? So I don't expect to see anything in my environment window. Let's see if it's the case. Oh yes, it is the case, see? It's just an output, but I don't see anything. I did not assign it. So now let's create an X and let's assign elements 1 through 5 to an X, but instead I want to do this. See this notation? It means I take 1 through 5. Okay, so I'm going to run it, and now I'm going to display the output in a console window. Now suppose that I'm interested to see only the third element. So what I'm going to see? I'm expected to see 3, right? Because the element start from 1. Now here, X class X is going to show me the data type, and this is another way to do it, right? str is going to show me the structure. This command will become important a little bit later today. And here, y will output. Here, what we're going to do, it's a little bit different. I want to create a vector y, and I want to have elements, I want to take elements 1 through 5, and then 8 through 10. You can do it like this. 1 through 5, comma, 8 through 10. You can do this instead of listing the elements, individually. So let's see. Okay, so you always want to verify. And now suppose that I want to display elements 3 to 6. It's not values 3 to 6, it's elements at the position 3 to 6. So I expect to see this one, right? I expect to see number 3, number 4, number 5, right? Well, let's see what's gonna happen. See this? Number 8. So I'm starting from position 3 and going to 6. I'm gonna check the data type, right? So this is an integer. What else you could do is, well, let's multiply y by 2. It's gonna multiply all elements, right? And I output, okay? So far so good. This is the sequence. So SEQ will create the sequence of element. It's gonna start from 1, right? I'm gonna run this. This is gonna be a set of elements 1 through 10. By default, it's gonna start from 1, right? The number of elements is 10 and increment by 1 by default. Now, suppose that I want to specify the start and end number, right? I can do that, right? What I can also do is I want to specify I want start at 2, go until 10, and I want to increment by 2. I can do that too, right? All right. So far, so good. Now, we're going to learn a little bit about getting help. This is important. There is more than one way to run this command. When I run this question, right, I run question mark, and I put the command name, it's going to show me the help page for this command. What's important to know is that, see this, it's going to give me this is a package name where this command is defined. Remember, all commands are grouped in the packages, right? So this is in the graphics package. Here it's going to show me the command, and those are various input parameters that this could take, right? Argument, there is a good description here. And also there are some examples. Some of these examples are more advanced, but it will be helpful to look at them, right? Okay. Now, well, I can also get the same result by running help. Okay. Now, suppose that I don't remember how to spell the bar plot, but I remember that it starts with bar. This one, a propose command, right, is going to search. In this case, I'm going to search for everything that contains bar. And it's going to help me find my package, right? If I know the spelling, it will help me find my function name, rather. Jesus, it's a bar plot. This search, notice that it's not case sensitive. It's not case sensitive because see here, B in the uppercase, right? Or B in the lowercase. Okay. Well, examples, it's just gonna display a bunch of examples in the console window. Okay, and this one, our size bar plot, is gonna search the internet for you, and it's gonna come up, it's gonna give you the set of link, online help. Well, it's gonna open the browser that you set as a default, and it's gonna give you the set of internet help site. You see this? Well, that's another way to get help, right? So I'm gonna close this one. Okay, now Now we're gonna do fun stuff, right? Well, what I did was on my C drive, I have a folder and I call the folder data sets, right? This one is case sensitive, uppercase D. And this is what you probably want to do for your assignment. You want to create a folder where you save the work. And see this command is gonna set the working directory. Working directory is a folder where I'm looking at by default, right? So when I try to read the data, I'm gonna be looking by default in this here, right? Because see, we cannot just limit ourselves to the data that was pre-installed. We want to be able to explore the data that's in the classroom, right? Well, so what you do is you're gonna save the file into this folder. You have to create the folder. I call it dataset, but you call it what works for you. But if I run this command, it's gonna set the path, right? It's a working directory. If also notice this here in the title bar here, it shows what your current working directory is. See this? But I don't like to rely on Windows. Suppose that I don't have this nice system, right? Well, get WD is gonna show me the current working directory. See this? And remember, everything is a vector, so that's why you see number 1 in here. Now, what else you can do is you can check your files in a working directory. All right, so let's see. What did I call my file? I don't remember. Here are the data files that I have saved in there. Looks like it's HR data files that we're going to be working with. Well, suppose that I try to load file, but it's not working. Sometimes you want to check if the file exists, right? So file exists, it's going to return true because I have a file with this name. So now we're going to read the file, right? A few important things here. First parameter is the file name. Second, header equals true. The first row in my file contains the column headings. I want to make sure that R reads the first row, right? That it reads the column headings, that it does not read the first row as data, and it does not put the dummy column names, right? Like column 1, column 2, etc. This one, we already know that the data is comma delimited, but I just put as is false because you have some data, you have some columns that store character data, but it's rather factor. Like one example is the salary. The values are low, medium, high, and we want this to treat it as a factor. Okay, we don't want it to be read as a string, right? So anyway, one option is as is set to false, right? Or you can do strings as factors is true, right? It's another way to do it. But it's done like this here, and it's gonna do what? It's gonna create a data frame. In other words, we are reading the contents of the file and we are assigning it to HR. See this? This is HR, and if you expand it, well, you're gonna see number of observations, right? Number of variables in the data, and you see the variable names, right? And you're gonna see the data type. And for the factor, like for example, department, 10 labels means the department may have one of the 10 values. Salary may have one of the 3 values, right? So each value, this is called level, right? It's just a vocabulary. And here, number of projects, those are the integers. Left, it's either, if left is 1, it means the employee left the company, right? If 0, it means that employee still works there. All right, so you've got, this is number because these are the real numbers here. All right, now what we'll do is we're going to start previewing the data. There are multiple ways to preview the data. View command is going to show it as a table. If you will see this shows it nicely as a table. Okay, I'm gonna close this out. All right, now, well, this is your friend because you just, if you want to preview, right, and if you want to see just the first 6 rows, you run the head command. Head by default is gonna show 6 rows. But if you want to change the number of rows that it returns, you need to specify the second optional parameter. Second parameter, number of rows, it's optional. So if I specify 10, it's going to show 10. But I want you to notice that, look at this, it wraps because all columns don't fit on the screen. So it's just going to wrap around like this for me, all right? It's because it does not fit on the screen here. And you probably know what tail is, right? Last 6 and last 10 here, right? Now, I just showed you the structure in this window here. But suppose that you don't have this window, suppose that you're working on an R script that you're going to be running in a shell, right? Well, you can get the same output by running the str command. Str will return the structure. Notice that it matches what you see here, right? Well, I did the same, but I ran the command to produce it. And also you want the work to be reproducible, right? Because, well, suppose that I unintentionally delete the column. That's another reason. I deleted the column. There is no way to undo. If I made a mistake, there is no way to undo. The only way to undo is to rerun the code from the beginning, okay? So if I made a mistake, and I cannot undo, but if I have a nice code that I saved, I can run everything from the beginning, I'll be all set, right? Okay, now, also class this is gonna return the data type. Data type is data frame. Here, I just check if it's a data frame, it should return true, right? Now, you might be wondering, how do I get the names of my columns? Well, of course, some of you would say, hey, here, look at the environment, it's there for you, right? But let's assume that we don't have this window. Or sometimes you want the list of column names to be an input into another command, right? That's true. Sometimes you want to loop through the columns and do something, right? So you need to know how to do it in the code, which is names, or also column names. It's going to return the column names here, okay? dim command is going to return the dimensions. This is basically what you see here, right? Number of observations, number of variables. Oops. And see this output by default, it's a vector of 2 elements, right? Do you see that? This output is a vector of 2 elements. Well, because if I want to show the number of rows only, I can run nrow command, or I can run dim command and show just the first element, right? The first element is the number of rows. There are multiple ways to show the number of columns also. And after this session, I'm gonna give you a copy of the code. I'm gonna give your instructor, and the instructor is gonna post. So here's number of columns, right? And also if I use dim command, I can use the second element. Here, what it's doing is that names, remember what it's doing? It's gonna get the list of column names, and this is the length. So it's number of names on a list of column names, if you will. Okay, that's just another way. Okay, now we're gonna look at the descriptive statistics. Remember, str shows the structure, and summary is going to show the statistics, right? 5-number summary, if you will. Here it is. So here, if I have the numeric, right, satisfaction level is numeric, it's going to show the minimum, first quartile, median, mean, third quartile, and the maximum, right? Now, if I have the categorical, like salary, see this? I have 3 values, and it's going to show me the number of rows that have each value and number of rows that have each value. In case of department, I have more than 6 departments, right? So what is it going to do is it's going to show the dominant, right? It's going to show the departments that have the most number of people, and other, it's going to group the rest of my data, right? It's going to group the rest of it as other. It's going to show as other category. See this? All right. But what I could do is that I could change how many levels are displayed. And I run the summary command, but I put a parameter called maxsum. So this parameter allows me to see more levels. See this? So now I see like 9, right? Before I saw only 6, because you have to maxsum. See this? This is the parameter that specify how many levels to show for the factors, okay? Now, suppose that I'm only interested in satisfaction level, and my data set, I have 1000 column. I'm not gonna browse through the whole output, right? What I can do is I can display the summary just for one column. So how do you access just one column? You have to put the data frame name, you put a $sign, and you put the column name, right? This is what you do. But one thing I wanted to show is that if you type, right, that's a nice thing about R. I put HR, I put a $sign, and see this, it's gonna give me a drop-down list of columns to choose from. So see this, it's nice. It's really nice. See this? Oh, what I just did is I'm outputting the whole column. You usually don't want to do that. Okay. Now, well, I just show you how that when you type, it's gonna just show you, right? It's gonna give you drop down to choose from. This is another way to show the summary. Lapply is applying the specify function to all columns in the data set. So see this? Lapply data frame is HR, and the summary is a function that I'm going to run. So here you see this. One difference is that here, if you do it this way, for the factors, you're gonna see the counts for all levels, right? When we use just the summary, you saw only 6 levels, 6 most dominant, right? And the rest were grouped in the category as others. If you run it this way, you're gonna get all levels, right? But if you want to see more levels for the with the summary command, you have to use this parameter maxsum, okay? Now, suppose that I want only the minimum, right? And only minimum satisfaction. I can use min command, right? On that column, and I can use also range command. It's going to return the minimum and maximum value. I can do the standard deviation command. I can do unique. Unique returns the list of unique values, which is similar to what levels does, right? Those are a little bit similar. Levels returns a list of valid values, right? Of the factor variable. Take a look at this here. Do you see the subscript 1? And here subscript 7. Why 7? It's because this element, right, is at position number 7. See this? You have 6 elements in the first row of the output, and this is 7. So this is why you see 7 here, okay? Now, well, this one, I want to see the highest satisfaction level per department. So I'm going to use the aggregate command. This is what I'm trying to aggregate. I'm looking at the satisfaction, and this is what I'm aggregating it by department. And the function is maximum, right? I want to see the maximum, 1. So somebody in each department is fully satisfied. So now we're going to look at the subset. Well, basically the way you do it is to take the subset of the data frame, you would type the data frame name, and in parentheses, in the brackets, you're going to specify the range of rows, right? So this is the first you do rows and then you do columns, right? So rows 1 through 5, comma, and then here you would put columns. But if the columns are omitted, it's going to show all columns of the first 5 rows. It's going to show all columns in the first 5 rows. Notice again, this wraps because it does not fit on the screen. But if I adjust it, the windows here, and I run it again, it's going to be, see this, if I run this again, see, more fits, right? It wraps differently. It depends on how I adjust my windows. So you might need to play around with this as you're taking screenshot for your paper or whatever you submit for assignment. Now here, in this case, I'm specifying that I want the first 5 rows and the first 3 columns. But here I'm specifying I want column at position number. See this? I'm specifying the position number. Here, this is another way. I want the first 6 columns. So names is a list of columns, right? And I want to take 1 through 6. So that's another, this is another way, right, to do that. Now here, I'm doing this. See, I use my combine command to specify the column that I'm interested in. So for example, I don't want all first 3 columns. I want column 1, 4, and 5. So in this case, I cannot do it like this, right? I cannot do 1 through 5. What I have to do is I have to use combine command, and I need to list the column numbers, column positions that I want to look at. Alternatively, I can list the column names if I know them. So see here, it's going to show the first 5 rows, and it's going to show the department, right? And it's going to show left. These 2 columns, this is what it's going to show, okay? Department and left. Now here, this will show all rows, and it will show department and left. Well, usually not a good idea, right? It's a large data set. And notice that it cuts off, right? I don't see the entire output. Remember we talked about the settings before? So there is a setting that specifies when to cut off, okay? Now, well here, I want to do the first 4 values in the salary column. So salary is a column. I want to show only the salary column, and I want only values 1 through 4, right? So first 4 rows. Okay, so this is what it's doing here. Salary 1 through 4. Now what we'll do? Well, salary, this one is gonna do this is a conditional subset. It's gonna output, it's gonna take the rows where salary is medium, right? Okay. Oh, I forgot something. I forgot this comment. This one is gonna take a subset, but in this time it's gonna assign. It creates a new HR, right? It assigns. Everything that you're doing here is not assigned to anything, right? This one, we are not assigning to anything. We're just outputting, right? Here, we are not gonna assign anything, but what I'm saying is that I want to take a subset, right, where the salary is medium. That's what it's do. So here you're specifying the here you first need to specify the row criteria, right? Instead of specifying I want row 1 through 5 perhaps, I specify the criteria. Salary is medium, then I put comma, and then nothing, right? So I meet the column names. So it's gonna give me all columns, right? If the salary is medium, this is what I'm expecting to get, right? I can also specify more than one condition. For example, I want salary medium and I also want the department to be HR. Sure, this is an and here, right? And I also, so I omitted the column names because I want to show all columns, right? Now we're gonna talk about adding a column. So we have the column we have a column called the time spent in the company, and this one is number of years spent, right? HR time spent in the company is a number of years. Now I'm going to create a new variable, and instead of showing number of years, I want to calculate the number of months, right? So first here, see what this does is it references the time spent in the company, it multiplies it by 12, right? And then it assigns. So here, this is HR data frame, right? You put a $sign and you just put the name of the new column. R will add that column for you, right? So we're gonna do this. Now what we're gonna do, we have to verify. Each time when you do something, you need to verify that the column was added in this case, right? So I'm gonna do the head command and I'm going to spot check. I want to, well, I have the years spent column, right? Somewhere I have the time spent. See this is in years. I'm going to check. So see this first row, 3. So the number of months is 36. 672. So this is right? You want to select a few to spot check. Now, suppose that I no longer need my month spent. To remove the column, you just set the column to null. When would you remove the column? Well, sometimes the column is unique identifier that does not actually add value to analysis, but may slow down analysis. So sometimes you remove unique identifier. You may also remove something that stores the personal information, PII, right? Because you don't want the social security number to be part of analysis, perhaps. So that's another reason. Sometimes the column could be skewed. Or, for example, assume that I have another column called state in here. And if everybody, almost everybody is in Maryland, then the state does not add value to analysis, right? If it's skewed. Right? So what I do is I would remove that column, right? And also sometimes you could have perhaps most of the values are missing, most of the rows are missing a value in that column. That's another reason. So there are multiple reasons. So after you remove, you want to preview. You want to verify because sometimes we make spelling errors, right? So you want to make sure that you spelled it right and that it does not get and you want to make sure that it got removed. Now, sorting. Well, one would you do the sorting? Well, sometimes I want to see what is the highest satisfaction level, right? Or let me see the top number of projects that people worked on. It's not the maximum number of projects, but I want to see the top 5 number of projects that people usually work on, right? So to do this, what do I need to do? I need to sort the data, right? Okay, so what here we're doing is we are taking the scissors in the brackets, we specify the rows, and then we list the columns, right? Columns are omitted, it means we're taking all columns, but in here, for the rows criteria, we specify that we want to order by satisfaction level. See this? So that's going to create a new data frame called HR sorted. And then I can run the head command. Then I'm gonna go back to that satisfaction level and I'm gonna check, right? Well, what you could see sometimes is you could have multiple rows with the same value. So it's hard to see that it was sorted, but in general, to see how the sort works, for example, you could look at average monthly hours, right? Something like that. You want to make sure that if you look at the first 10 rows, the numbers are going down, right? That's how you know that you sorted correctly. And you can also sort descending. You're gonna put the minus sign in front of the column name. That is going to sort, it's gonna sort in the opposite order, right? You can sort ascending or you can sort descending, okay? Now, and always you want to run the head command to check if it's correct. You may also sort by 2 columns, right? I'm sorting by 2 columns. Okay, well, and here I did not specify which columns I want to use. Well, therefore, I take all of them. Okay, so I'm running this and I'm running that. Okay, now, another thing that you might want to do with this is if you look at the attrition command, right, or if you look at the left command, well, it's stored as an integer, but then the problem is when you start calculating, when you start looking at the statistics, right? Let's go ahead and do this. Let's run summary command again, right? And the summary of the HR. Let's see something here. I'm looking at if the person stays in the company or if the person left, right? What does it mean, the mean value? What do you mean? You half left or half stayed? You cannot be half left. There is no such a thing as part-time in this case. You either left or you stayed, right? So we want to make sure that that specific column is actually a factor, right? So it's going to treat it as integer because, well, it's a numeric. The value is a numeric. So what you have to do is you can run the command to convert it to the factor. First of all, what you do is you take a factor command, and then this is the input, HR left. And here you are assigning it to HR left. In other words, you're overriding it, right? You're overwriting the values. You're changing it to the factor. And then I'm gonna just run a summary command for that specific column. And I see the number of rows that have which value. And then here, another check to check if it's a factor, right? So this is how you're gonna do. You're gonna do the verification like this, right? And this one is a frequency table. Table command is gonna show me the frequency. All right, so here, how many times each value of the salary appears, right? And here, this will show me the percentages instead of, it shows me the percentages that for each value. Okay, so here, those are the two columns. I want to see the cross tabulation of two columns. So I'm looking how many rows have the high salary and an employee state, right? Something like that. Okay, so this is the next big topic is the missing values. Well, sometimes you might have a column that has no values. And well, if you go back to this output here of the summary command, you may have noticed that it says NS1. It means that you have at least one value, one row where the value is missing. Well, the problem is this. I'm going to calculate now the mean of the last evaluation column that has missing values, and I'm getting this NA. Why? Because it's not ignoring the missing values. It attempts to calculate the average, right? It attempts to include that missing value in a calculation. So what you need to do is you have to specify this parameter to explicitly ignore the missing values, right? This is what you need to do here. It's just for this specific scenario. Now, well, you're probably gonna need to do this for your exercise too. You have to tell if the data has missing values. How do you do this? You have to check any, right? Well, isNA, first of all, isNA, it's going to return true if the value is missing. isNA is going to check if any of the rows are missing at least one value. It's going to, well, and the value is true. This command is going to return true. If somewhere in the data set, somewhere in the data frame, some column, right? At least one of the column is missing a value, okay? That's why it does not return how many values are missing, but it's just going to return if there are any. Now here, I want to know how many are missing. Then you have to take the sum. And I know that I have two values somewhere missing, right? But we don't know in which columns they are missing. Well, we can do this. We'll see this like last evaluation. I just know it. I'm cheating, right? But I know that last evaluation is missing some, right? See this? I'm going now, it's gonna show me this. See this last evaluation, it has one value missing, but it does not tell me much information. I need to know which row, right? So when I run the which command, it's gonna give me the row number where I want to look at, right? So it's row number 375. It's missing a value of the last evaluation column, okay? Now, here, I want to display the observation if at least one variable is missing a value. Complete cases by itself is going to take the rows without missing value, but exclamation point is negation, right? So what we're doing here, we are specifying the criteria for the rows. Row selection is criteria is you have at least one value missing, right? So the row is not complete, at least one value missing. And here, comma, and nothing, it means that you're doing all columns, right? So this is what it's gonna do now. And we're gonna see two rows. See this, and this is a row number. Row number 375 is missing last evaluation. And then we have row number 59 is missing average monthly hours, right? But here, this one is going to show you how many values are missing in each column. See this column and number of missing values, okay? How we handle missing values, it depends on the situation. Suppose that you have some rows that missing values in almost all columns. You probably, in this case, want to remove the rows, right? In general, you want to be careful because when you're removing rows, you could lose important data, right? Sometimes in some scenarios, you want to set the missing value to an average. Could be the column average, perhaps, right? If it's a numeric. If it's a categorical, you may add the predefined values. Like for example, suppose that in here, salaried, I have low, medium, and high. And suppose that I have a missing value somewhere. I could code my missing as unknown. That's an option, right? The option for the categorical. I can use the user-defined values, right? Or I could also, if I have a column where most of the values are missing, I could just choose to remove that column. So there are multiple ways to handle missing values. Okay, now here I'm going to omit, right? Omit means that I want to remove the rows with missing values. So this is how you do it. And now this should return, this should be nothing now, right? If I run new HR, it should be nothing because I removed, oh wait, new HR, this is only gonna take the complete cases. I should have run this command only, and then I need to put new HR, right? This one is gonna do, this is gonna show the complete. See this new HR, this is gonna do this. This is the complete cases, right? Well, here, this is another way, okay? I'm taking, okay, see here, this is the row selection condition, complete case, so there are no missing values, and here I take all columns, right? So here I'm just showing you multiple ways to handle, and over here I'm setting it to the column average. But, well, how do you do the column average? You have to use mean, right? Mean. And how you do this, remember, mean is going to fail if you have missing values. So you have to use an ARM equals true. This is an assignment operator. Here, I'm specifying that I want to look at the last evaluation in here, right? And I'm going to take whatever it is. Well, is an 8, right? It means missing. And I'm taking the rows, I'm taking the row numbers that are missing the last evaluation. See, this is an age. This piece here is going to return the row number, okay? This is going to return me, well, see, this it's going to return, it's going to take those row numbers, right? So here, those are the rows that I want to take, right? This is a name, and this is a column, right? Column name, okay? Now here, I'm doing it slightly different. Take a look at this. I want to do this. See this average monthly hours. I want to set it to 200. If the value is not specified, well, I want to set it to 200, right? You can set the specified predefined value for numeric and for the categorical. I can have the predefined one, right? Okay, and here, after I run these two commands, I need to verify that my missing values were handled. I can repeat, I can rerun the command at the top, right? Right, I can just rerun this. Okay, so here, oh, I see why it's still one. You have to check your work. Last evaluation still has one missing values because I did not run the command. Now I'm going to run the command. And now it's going to go away. See, now it's going to be 0. You have to do the verification all the time to make sure that you did not miss anything, right? So now here, well, now we're going to talk about packages. A browse URL is going to take you to the site with trend repository, and here are the various packages, and almost every day things got edited and things got edited. Yes? Here is a date when the package was edited last, but well, but as we speak, somebody will be developing something. All right. See, like this is, for example, see, this one is new. See, it was not there yesterday, right? So now let's go back and close this out. Library, it's gonna tell me which packages are installed. I'm sorry, which, yeah. See this library? Yes, it's gonna do this. Okay, well, actually, let's go back. Okay, so library is list of installed packages. Search is gonna list the loaded packages. Those are the packages that at the moment are in memory. Remember that the package is not available until you put it in memory, right? And this one here is gonna show me the location. Where do I get the packages installed? When you import, when you install the first package, you'll be prompted if you want to create a folder. And this is the folder. This is the folder. Well, this is gonna be my name, right? My documents, and this is R. And there is a folder called Win Library, and this is where all your packages get installed, the user defined. So then you're gonna see this folder called rules, and what it contains some of the pre-installed data sets. That package is this folder will have data sets. It will have some documentation, some help pages, some actual code files, and etc. Right? So you see that it's stored here, and there is also location for the system libraries, right? Well, this is the program files when you cannot edit it, right? Well, you don't want to be able to edit it. All right, so when you install the package, it's gonna be here, and Lena is my childhood nickname, but for you, it's gonna be different username on your PC, right? Now, well, you're gonna run this command to install a real package in the next assignment. Command is not available until you put the package in the memory. So what you need to do is you have to run either library command, or you can run also require command. There's two ways. There are two ways to do it. All right. Now, suppose that I want to read the help page. This is the command to read the help page. This will return the help page for you, right? Okay, so it's on here. Oh, okay. Oh, it's in here. Sorry, guys. Right here. Now we're gonna go back to our code. VNet. Well, some packages contain it's like a PDF file with examples. So you can look at this. This is a VNet, and it was installed. Where is it installed? In the docs subfolder, right? Because if you look at this here, you will see it in here. Like if you look at the rules, see that there is a doc subfolder, and those are the VNets. That's where they're located, right? So this is the data that comes with this package, right? Etc. The pre-installed data. Okay. Now we're gonna look at. Well, this one is just open a web page with links to example, and this is a command that you would run to update all packages, right? This is one way, or you could also do this packages, and you can click on update. That will check for package update and will take care of it. You would need to specify which package you want to update, actually. Okay, mine is up to date. I updated everything. Now, if you no longer need a package, well, you can detach is gonna unload the package from memory. Remove is gonna delete the package, right? So now this is fun if you like it. Data visualization. For your assignment, you're asked to read the help page for the histogram command, and also to run the histogram command on one of the columns. So you got those questions for a reason, because well, if you type this, right, if you type just this, HIST, and then put data frame name, $ column name, this is correct, right? This is the answers that you're going to get credit for, you will. But the goal is to go a little bit beyond, right? Why are we asking you to read the help page? Because we want you to look at the options. Like for example, I can change the number of beans, right? Let's go ahead and add this to the command that I submit, right? If I was doing an assignment, I would put something extra. I would not limit myself to just a command without parameters. So I would strongly recommend read the help page and to try different colors. So see here, I'm combining multiple parameters, specifies the density, the number of breaks. It's going to attempt to break data into the number of specified intervals. It will try at least, okay? Now, here, average hours, right? I labeled this axis. But for you, you probably also want to change the title, okay? You want to put more descriptive title. So you would need to read the help page for the histogram, and you will see an option to change title, okay? All right, so what this one does, bar plot takes the frequency table as an input. You have multiple options here. I can create my table, and then I can use the table as an input into the bar plot, right? Or I can do it as a single command, right? I can put this table command inside this, right? I could do that too. Or, well, this one here, it just uses, I stored here this table in a salary T, and I just computed the bar plot, right? Now here, what if I want to sort? See this? I'm sorting the rows, right? I'm sorting it, right? And the sort order by default is going to do ascending, sorting this by height, or I can do the horizontal one, right? Or see this? This is a horizontal one. A pie chart also takes the table as an input, but here instead I didn't create another variable for the table. I just put it as a parameter here. Jesus, remember the order of operations. The most inner is taken first, right? And then you do table. Pie chart. Well, one thing to tell you about the pie chart, it shows the relative frequency, right? But the pie chart does not work well when you have many values. It could become to the point that you cannot even read what's on it. If I had perhaps 1,000 values, then pie chart would not be suitable for the problem that I'm looking at, right? Because you cannot read, the slices are too small, etc. So then here for the numeric columns, you want to do box plot, right? This is for numeric. And this is just the generic plot function. And what it does depends on the columns that you put in it. Salary, it just did the bar plot. It's a bar plot with single, because I'm taking the single categorical column, right? So that is going to do the plot function is going to do the bar plot. Now here, what I'm taking this HR summary, I'm taking a table, right? And then I want to do the type line. Let's see. See this? I'm doing the same thing, right? I try to plot the bar plot, but instead I want to do the line. So I specify the type equals L, right? And in here, this is the two categorical variables. This is two categorical. This one is going to be the single numeric. It's going to be hard to read. See, this is hard to read. If you really have to choose what you are doing, right? You have to look at if it's suitable for your problem. Otherwise, well, this is two numeric variables. I'm just giving you examples how to do it, okay? So I went through the code. Let me look at the slides to make sure that I did not miss anything. We talked about running this code, right? And I'm gonna give you the code. So no problem there. We talked about the console window, we talked about the environment. Oh, and for the environmental, let me show you, there are two ways to preview this. So see here, right now, I'm looking at the list view. I can also change this to the grid view. Well, why is it important? It's because suppose that I had 1,000 of this, right? And I'm running low on memory. I probably want to look at this, at the size, right? It shows the size here, and remove something that I don't need and that takes a lot of space. That's one reason, you know. Okay, well, I could also select one and use a broom to remove, but again, I prefer that you write the code whenever possible. Or let's say it this way, if this removal is just a single time cleanup, just go ahead and do it. If this removal has to happen each time when you reproduce the results, then it has to be part of the script, okay? Now let's go back to the slides. Okay, so here, well, it shows how to define the variable. We talked to the environmental window, and I just show you different views, right? And in here, well, we reviewed, we looked at the sequences, right? We looked at how to check the help files, commands history, right? We talked about working directory and how to check if the file exists. We talked about reading the CSV file, right? We looked at the data frame structure. So everybody remembers the difference between summary and str command, right? Str is just a struct, right? Summary has to do with the data itself, okay? Subset, etc. We talked about this. I'm just trying to make sure, okay? Well, here it just shows you when you delete the column, just examples, right? Well, and sometimes you remove unused variables to save the storage, because every computation that you do, it takes the storage, right? Here, this just different descriptive statistics. We talked about the sorting, right? Okay, we talked about missing values, and I spelled out for you. We talked about installing packages, right? We talked about a lot of stuff here. Those are some commands for the packages you may like. I spelled out when you use each visualization, and see this. One thing to remember is that the histogram, it shows the frequencies, right? But it does not show the actual values, right? And it works very well for the large data set. It shows the frequency distribution. It does not show the actual values, right? And the pie chart also works for frequency distribution, but the problem is it could become unreadable, right? With a large number of values. All right. Now, here I'm talking about bar plots and also the generic plotting, right? If you're gonna do the scatter plot, it's a generic. Here to exit the RStudio, you run the Q command. See, this is just the Q, okay? This is how to exit. But this file here, R data, this is where when you save it, you have two hidden files created. The one of the file, it stores the command history. Our history file stores the command history, and our data stores the workspace image. So next time when you restart RStudio, it could restart where it was started. But you would still need to make sure that the packages you're using, you put them in memory, okay? You still need to do that, but I'm just showing you that those two files get saved, right? This stores the current session information. But what is the workspace? Workspace is just a collection of objects that you create during the R session. I did not create the workspace, but in theory, you're probably going to create the workspace first, and then you're going to add the files to it. You're not required for this assignment, but I'm just talking in general, okay? Well, and when you start the new R session, the workspace objects will be loaded, okay? Here, there is a nice cognitive class site. So after this course is over, I'm sure that some of you will be willing to learn more about R. So here there is a free cognitive class site where you can watch those, there's some R courses, and especially using R-based databases. This is something you're gonna do in data 650, unless we change the well, once in a while there are changes to the course. So hopefully this part stays, because you know, it's important. You need to know how to work with database, and you need to know how to pull the data from database and do further analysis in R. Okay. Then there are a couple groups in LinkedIn that you might be interested in joining if you're interested in R, right? I'll just put it for you here. Okay, and those are some of the additional links, because I had to put references, right? Because I didn't make all of this up, right? Well, I didn't, it's an original, the lecture is an original, but I had to refer to some of the documentation, right? So I had to list the references here, okay? Now, time for questions and answers. Some of you may have been waiting for this moment. Any questions? So, should I assume that everything in your assignment went as expected, or shouldn't I just made? So, not sure how many of you remember me, but when you took data 610, I managed your accounts. Oh, most welcome. Yes, we covered a lot of information. So trust me, even if you attended the session, you will still need to, you may still want to watch the recording. Some concepts here, it may take more than once, okay? Some concepts in this session or recording, you may need to review more than once to fully understand. And I'm sure that you're gonna have questions as you go, okay? But what I'm gonna do, if there are no more questions, are there more questions? Okay, apologize. Okay. Okay. Oh, what the question is, but will the R file be, I showed you, will be sent out? Absolutely, Angela. Yes. So this is, I call it customer service. So basically, you will get it everything. You're gonna get the slides, you're gonna get the R file, and also you're gonna get a copy of data, because some of you may want to follow along as you watch the recording. Why not? If you want to follow along, you're just gonna need to change the directory. Like when you read the data from the file, right, you need to make sure that you have the folder called datasets or any different path where you save the file, okay? You just need to change the directory, all right? Because you want to follow along. So how would you put the labels on a histogram, okay? So to put the labels on a histogram, this is what I did in here. In this R example, let's go back to the R studio, and I'm doing the histogram in here. I hope by the labels, you mean I put this one, right? Like I labeled the, well, here, over here, this is the histogram. This is X lab. X lab is gonna label the X axis. Y lab is gonna label the Y axis, right? But how do I learn all of this? How do you do all of this? This is my secret. I put like this, right? What will this do? Is gonna return me a help page in here, and then I'm gonna go in here, and I'm going to find this. I'm gonna find the argument that it takes, right? So there is a argument called title, main, sorry. Main is gonna put the title of on the plot. X, this one, is gonna put the, it's gonna label the x-axis, and y lab is gonna label the y-axis, right? And you can also set the range for x and y. Is this? You're gonna look at it here, and you can specify the color to fill the bars, right? And you can do the shading, the density, and you can specify the angle. There are so many things that you can do. And by the way, I want to tell you a little secret. Those visualizations that you see in the modules in the classroom, they were created in R. Well, at some point, I played around with reading the documentation, and then I sent the images to instructors. So I just got, I love these visualizations. And also it's one way to learn how to read the documentation, right? So this is, You may want to try this. I hope I answered the question. Jesus, you want to try this for your assignment. You don't want to limit yourself just to a simple histogram command. You want to get a little bit beyond, right? A little bit beyond the minimum, all right? It's not just about getting the grade, it's about learning. It's all about learning taking place, right? That's why all of you are taking this course, this program to learn, right? So let's see, anything else? I like questions, right? Or I start asking questions. So anybody remembers my name from data 610? Hopefully all of you do, right? Well, anyways, I'm not gonna test you on that, but anyway, more questions? More questions? No? Okay, so what I'm gonna do, if there are no more questions, going once, going twice, I'm gonna stop this recording, and what I'll do is, once I receive the recording, once all of the conversion is done, I'm going to send the link to your instructor, and your instructor will post this in the classroom. I'm gonna give you all files that were illustrated today, okay? So with that being said, I'm gonna stop the recording, and I want to wish every one of you successful semester, all right? So I'm gonna stop the recording, and I'm gonna end the session.